Today on JCT's Fascinating Hobbies, we're in a loft. This loft is at my mum's house, and a lot of my Acorns are stashed up here. We've got an A4000, an A440, this A5000 which I'm just about to get into to see how the batteries are.
You're going to find into
That monitor, which I think is an AKF60. There's a microvitic cub here. I'll just get the torch on. So microvitic cub, BBC Master 128, a selection of keyboards including this one, which is that's for the A440. Looks like it's actually a later one, so it's got the Acorn logo on it. But it also has the older Archimedes logo. What else have we got up here? Quite a nice PC keyboard. An old inkjet printer. A Sony C5. That, which is, I think... Oh, that is a slide transfer for slides to videotape, VHS cassettes, loft insulation, some of my car brochures, a pair of Commodore PETs, 3016 and a 3032. What else is under here? Oh, a bottle collection. I had a load of bottles when I was younger. That is a Z82 CPU. That's a box of toy cars. What else? Oh, right over there, that white box there is the box that my RISC PC, the one that I originally had, actually came in. I still have the original box, which I'm quite pleased with. And yes, that's an AKF50. It's got the it's from an old school. There's a few Acorn keyboards here as well. So, and that is a Sony camera. That's a Sony BMC. So what I need to do is actually get the lid off of this A5000. I want to see how damaged it is. 6 screws. So let's get the cover off. Okay, we're into the A5000. We have a Kona hard disk, size unknown, either going to be 40 megabyte or 80 megabytes. We have, I think that's a RAM expansion. This is a combined user port. Yes, user port, 1 MHz bus and analog port. MIDI not installed, although it looks like you could install it at a later point. That takes up 1 module slot but 2 physical module spaces. So I need to remove this. I also need to remove the hard drive just to get a look at the rest of the motherboard. And we're in. And looking at it, we have actually quite minor damage. It's not lifting any of the tracks, which is an added bonus. So I need to get that battery out and chopped off. Also have this board. Not even sure what that is. Interlock. I'll be honest, I do not know what that is. I'd have to look it up. Yeah, it's definitely a RAM expansion board. That is, I believe that's the ARM3. That's the floating point socket. There is some damage to the pins on that, but I'm hoping I've got away with it. So I'm going to get some snips and chop that battery out. Right, there we go, that's out. So I now need to find something to neutralise this with, and I'm hoping it hasn't done too much damage. So let's get something to neutralise that. So I've chopped out the battery, I've put some vinegar over the corrosion. That does seem to have neutralised it. Now I just need to wipe this down with something to neutralise the acid. So that is hopefully the alkaline damage neutralised. It doesn't seem to have eaten into the board. The one on my old RISC PC was absolutely destroyed. This one looks like we may have potentially life. Right, let's put it back together and put it back into storage, and our next one's going to be the A4000. So that's the A5000, hopefully saved for another day. At some point I need to get these down, hook them up and test them. So, it's quite hot up here. Other circuitry and boards that I have. Actually, this is useful. This board is from a Panasonic NV7200, I think. I've got one of those, so these could come in quite handy. This is actually not sure what this one is. This is an expansion board from something. Has an NEC board processor chip. I'm not sure what this is. This might be. Let's see if there's any manufacturer markings. Yes, digital. One of the stupidest things I did when I was younger was I took apart a Deck Rainbow, and that's one of the boards from said Deck Rainbow. I kept all the boards because I had this thing about mounting circuit boards on my wall, which I still do actually, but I had this thing about doing that when I was younger, and I stupidly took apart a Deck Rainbow, and they're worth quite a lot of money now. But at least I have the boards. That's one thing. It's actually quite handy. I've got the boards here from that Panasonic, because I've got a problem with that. If I can swap out the boards, I can isolate the board where the problem actually resides. So that could be quite useful to repatriate those at some point. I think this one might be another Deck Rainbow board. I think that one here is the Deck Rainbow main board. This is a 386 SX40 board, if I remember rightly. That's another BBC Micro. I think that little black thing there is a tape deck for said BBC Micro. So this is the A4000, and we've also got the A440 down there as well. I'm going to get the lid off both of these and check for battery corrosion. I'm hoping that we'll have a similar story on the A4000 that we did on the A5000. We still have as well on this one a parallel cable wired in, and it looks like this one might be toast, judging by the corrosion on those two. Well, yeah, I think we might be too far gone on this one. Let's get it apart and let's have a look. So it looks like this one's held in with two screws, one here and one here. So let's get the cover off and let's have a look at the damage. So we're inside this one, and there does seem to be extensive leakage around that battery. So I'm going to get the battery out. The rest of the board actually looks pretty clean. It's a later revision because we do have the ARM 250 in there, so it is a later revision board. The board itself is, from my understanding, pretty much identical to the board used in the A3010 and A3020. Certain A3010s didn't have this ARM 2. They had what was known as a mezzanine board, which had the MEMC, IOMD and ARM CPU on one chip. This one looks to have the 4 megabyte of RAM, I think those are extra RAM chips. We have a pair of RISC-OS 3.1 chips there. So I'm going to chop out this battery pretty much in the same way I chopped out the last one. So let's have a look at it. Yeah, let's get the snips onto that, chop it out, and then get some vinegar onto it and just see how destroyed it is. I'm hoping that we may be able to salvage something. Right, let's get that sorted. Right, so that's that one cleaned up, and I'm hoping that that should be enough to neutralise. That's not actually alkali, that is just paint off the case, believe it or not. I'm hoping that that is enough to neutralise it. Got another Kona hard drive in here. Blimey, that one's 105 megabytes. It's actually quite big for one of these. So, I'm hoping that that will be enough to effectively neutralise the alkaline that was on there. At some point I will need to test this. This is from the speaker. I'm going to take a wild guess and say that it's come from this jumper here, judging by the stretch that that's got on it and the fact it seems to sit snugly in there. Right, next on the list, the 440. The next machine is a rather special machine. This is an A440, no /1s. This is the first, technically the first ever desktop RISC computer, or affordable desktop RISC computer. So this is an Acorn Archimedes 440. This was top of the range. Bottom of the range was the 305. Then you had the 310, and then right at the top you had the 440. Came with the floppy disk drive and an ST506 hard disk. ST506 is effectively what came before IDE. Used to belong to a school, Somerset County Council, on the label by the looks of it. My mum used to be a teacher, so a lot of these machines, when I was younger, when they were at the end of their school life, they found their way into my hands because people knew of me, knew I liked Acorns, and generally that's where the nicer ones ended up. So they would tend to give away the A3000s and stuff, and the nicer ones seem to sort of make it into my hands, probably because they knew I'd appreciate them, and appreciate them I did. I used to use them quite a lot. So that screw should come out. Let's do the other side. We'll get the lid off and we'll have a look at the battery pack. On these, I think the battery pack is actually separate from the motherboard, so we shouldn't have any motherboard damage. Let's get in and have a look. So here we are inside the A440, and we are actually looking okay. So it looks like it is running RISC-OS 3. Everything else looks to be in particularly good shape. No corrosion, hardly any dust. That right there is the battery pack. This is the fan with the very crumbly but removable filter. This is our Western Digital ST506 hard disk. And this obviously is our power supply. So this is our little battery pack at the back. And it looks like, dare I say, those batteries are actually probably completely empty by now, but there is the possibility that they may be undamaged. So let's get them out and have a look. So I'm just going to pause and get those batteries out. So that's our battery pack. Or doesn't look like it's any major corrosion there at all. These are the batteries. I seem to remember I actually replaced these at some point back in the early 2000s, so I'm glad I did, because it looks like I've saved the machine from any sort of potential problems. I can't see any date marks on these individual batteries, which wouldn't surprise me, but is there a use by date? No. But the main thing is the batteries appear to be okay. They'll need replacing, but they haven't leaked or done anything of that sort of nature. One thing I will need to do at some point is to remove this fan and remove and replace this filter, because the filter on these you had to replace yearly, as they were slightly over-engineered and they actually did come with a filter. Some of the models, such as the A305 and the A310s, didn't have the fan, didn't have the hard drive. They also didn't have this module backplane. It was generally only the higher end models like this one that got the backplane. This one is as bone stock as you can get, which is nice actually. And I think this one will be subject to a bit of a restoration at some point in the future. So sort of trying to get that back to a nice colour and do a few other bits and pieces to it. Anyway, I'm going to reassemble this machine, but for today that is it. I'd like to thank you all very much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button, don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.